Hey friends, and welcome back to our series on studying effectively for GCSEs and A-levels. In this video, I briefly want to touch on the topic of whether you should use music while studying. So I won't speak about the evidence behind studying with music because there's already a really great video that does that and goes into the details, which will be linked down below in the description. But I will generally speak more about my experience and how I think about the situation, so hopefully you can learn a few things from that. So firstly, whether I decided to listen to music really depended on my mood that day. Sometimes I decided to work in silence, especially at the library, and other times I prefer to work with music. Usually I found myself working in silence, but when studying began to feel boring or I found myself getting distracted by Facebook or Snapchat and whatnot, then I would start listening to some music. And I think this brings me on to an important point. Overall, most studies have shown that any genre of music makes people slightly or significantly less productive and slower when it comes to working. But I think of the situation as follows. Let's imagine that your work done is your productivity multiplied by the time you're productive for, and let's say that listening to music makes you 20% less productive and less focused, but makes studying a bit more interesting and allows you to work for 60% longer than you otherwise would have without music. This would mean that you're getting 32% more work done, or if in the case you were 40% less productive and working 4 times longer, then you would be getting 140% more work done. Or in an extreme case, say that you're listening to music and it makes you 50% less productive, but you're working for twice as long, then here you're basically breaking even. So whilst the exact numbers don't necessarily matter, the main point here is that I think a small trade-off in your productivity by listening to music but being able to work for longer is still worth it, and you're still winning overall because you're getting more work done. So whilst on many study days I didn't start out listening to music early in the day, as I find myself getting more distracted and more tired, then I would put on some music to get a second rush of momentum, or if you want to call it that. This was especially true for subjects I didn't really like. I could focus on subjects like for maths at A-level for much longer because I actually enjoyed those subjects, but I couldn't last more than 10 minutes on something like GCSE religious studies. But if I sacrifice, say, 40% of my attention and focus and put on some music and manage to focus for 60 minutes instead of maybe 10 minutes I would have focused for without music, then that's going to be a huge win for me. So when I did work with music, then I found that listening to music without lyrics or just without English lyrics was quite helpful. I found that even when doing subjects like maths, music with lyrics was too distracting, as I would end up focusing too much on the words and the potential meaning of those words than actually focusing on the question or understanding the material at hand. Whereas listening to music in languages I didn't really understand, such as Eurovision songs, allowed me to focus much better, as there was no way of me getting distracted by lyrics since I didn't really understand them. Or I would even listen to soundtracks from some movies and shows. Generally, I listen to anything without lyrics, or lyrics I didn't understand, especially songs, soundtracks or albums that I had listened to many times before, because they still helped me to stay focused, but because I had listened to that particular song or album so many times before, the music was much easier to drown out than it would be with new music. So the main downside in songs in languages that I understood was that when I was stuck on a difficult problem or trying to make sense of a difficult concept and was leaning back on my chair trying to figure it out, then rather than actually achieving diffused thinking like I mentioned earlier in my series, and coming up with the solution, I would instead find myself focusing on the words and the song and what it potentially means and everything, which wasn't particularly helpful for the current situation. So basically, lyricless music or foreign music had a huge advantage here. But yeah, that's basically how I think about the situation. Thanks for watching, and hopefully you've learned something from this video.